Solarpunk is Gen Z's future. Let's get into the video.
Imagine a world where vibrant greenery strikes your eyes the moment you wake. The air you breathe is filtered and refreshing. The technology you use runs on clean energy. Solar panels blend seamlessly into the architecture, while living
Low-key though, that's if society becomes like the Solarpunk scene, bro, that'd be so awesome to look at that. Look at that. That's so pretty looking.
walls and rooftop gardens surround you. Rainwater is collected instead of wasted, and buildings are covered in plants instead of advertisements. This is the aesthetic of Solarpunk, a social movement that envisions and works towards building a sustainable future.
Social movement that envisions and works toward building a sustainable future.
Interconnected with nature and community. There's just one problem.
That's like Solarpunk is like a utopia, basically, like the utopian ideal. Like it's ideal.
Most of it doesn't exist. So is Solarpunk simply another impossible idealistic internet aesthetic, or could it actually become the blueprint to rebuilding our cities, and maybe even our entire relationship with the planet? In his book, Capitalist Realism, Mark Fisher writes that it is easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. Whether or not you agree with his conclusion, his observation about our collective imagination feels incredibly accurate. Over the past few decades, depictions of humanity's seemingly inevitable dystopian collapse have become some of our most influential.
Like, so many people are so focused on humanity's dystopian collapse. Like, look at George Orwell, for example. Like, so much negativity. I love to see when people talk about Solarpunk and the positive, like the utopian, where we can be utopian. You know, we don't have to always think so negatively about humanity. We can look at a better future instead of what's on the screen right now, mega city that's dystopian, where it's all metal, advertisements and all that. Why can't people start thinking more positively?
Cultural stories. Movies like I Am Legend and TV shows like The Walking Dead depict a world where virus outbreaks lead to the near extinction of humanity. Video games like Cyberpunk 2077 portray technologically advanced futures defined by neon lights and power-hungry corporations. Part of the reason these stories resonate is because conflict attracts us to stories. A world where everyone was happy and free and stable wouldn't exactly make for the most compelling TV show or video game.
Exactly.
But another reason is that they reflect many of our genuine anxieties about the future. Climate change, political instability.
Climate change, political instability, and all that, so much. There's so much anxiety in the world. Why can't we just look toward the positive aspects of of a better future instead of just of course advanced technology, advanced technology, but why can't we just look better, look more positive?
And AI automation have made dystopian futures feel like plausible outcomes. So it's no surprise that our culture has become extremely good at imagining collapse. But what if we did something far more difficult and imagined what success looks like? What if we didn't automatically assume that collapse was inevitable? Those are the questions that Solarpunk attempts to answer. The word solarpunk combines solar, representing renewable energy and sustainability, with punk, representing resistance to the status quo. The origins of solarpunk begin with an unassuming blog post from 2008 written by an anonymous blogger, Republic of the Bees, titled From Steampunk to Solarpunk. In the blog post, Republic of Bees describes the design of the Beluga Skysail, a hybrid cargo ship that uses sail power to supplement the ship's engine.
That's so cool, though. Instead of the normal steam, solarpunk. Steampunk is good, the aesthetic is good, but solarpunk. I love solarpunk. It's so cool.
Resulting in fuel savings between 10 to 35%. So, in honor of the Beluga Skysail's maiden voyage, they write, I'm going to suggest a new literary genre, solarpunk. Unlike steampunk, which imagines an alternate history where Victorian steam technology continued to evolve, solarpunk revolves around a much more practical question. If fossil fuels were no longer cheap or no longer sustainable, what technologies would naturally evolve to replace them? Rather than imagining impossible inventions, Republic of the Bees imagines existing engineering principles pushed to their logical conclusion, combining centuries-old systems with modern ones. That's why the Beluga Skysail became the movement's honorary cargo ship. Instead of abandoning sailing altogether, engineers combined centuries-old wind power with modern navigation systems to reduce fuel consumption. Progress, in other words, is about rediscovering what the past already got right, reintegrating it with present-day advancements, and discarding what clearly isn't working.
See.
Republic of the Bees also argued that, unlike most speculative fiction, solarpunk didn't have to remain speculative. Many of its ideas, like
windmills, like solarpunk is probably one of the more plausible forms of this utopia, because windmills like that have already proven that we can use wind for power and we don't need to rely on fossil fuels. And if we continue to develop on windmills and solar panels and all that, we can move away from this dystopia, energy-wise.
Renewable energy, passive architecture, wind-assisted shipping, and local food production already exist in some form. The biggest challenge is intentionally deciding to build a society around them. I actually really like the way the initial solarpunk future was described, because unlike the internet aesthetic that currently dominates the idea, Republic of the Bees assumed that this transition would be difficult. He assumed it would be politically messy, filled with conflicts over energy, economics, and entrenched interests. You know what else is way too difficult to achieve? Finding doctors that actually take your healthcare insurance. I've been putting off a shoulder injury for months because the
healthcare system is so corrupt. They care more about the money. Political warning. They care more about the money than the actual patients. The healthcare system is so corrupt, in my opinion. They care more about the money than the patients.
Process of getting help.
Same with insurance companies.
Was just way too complicated. I had to search for a doctor on Google that actually takes my insurance and set an appointment at 100. Their website for my shoulder, arm, and in my area.
That was an ad.
Historia. Gerson Lodi Ribeiro published the first solarpunk anthology, Solarpunk, Historias Ecológicas y Fantásticas en un Mundo Sustentable. It was the first serious attempt.
Holy good pronunciation, what?
To turn this loose collection of ideas into an actual body of fiction, imagining sustainable societies that weren't post-apocalyptic or technologically primitive. But solarpunk didn't really become recognizable until it found a home on the internet. In 2014, artist Olivia Luis published a Tumblr post that would end up defining the movement's visual identity for years to come. Instead of the sterile white minimalism that often dominates futuristic art,
I don't understand why, I do, but I don't. The modern day white minimalist, futuristic, I like this a little bit more like the maximalist or mediumist, non-white canvas, the future. I have a good feeling that this is probably AI, but the idea of stuff looking like what's on the screen right now is really nice. I don't know. That's just that's just a personal opinion though. I see why people get the white minimalist futures thing because it's sleek, but I don't know.
Architecture, she imagines something warmer. Art Nouveau-inspired buildings draped in greenery, stained glass solar panels, communal greenhouses, walkable streets lined with independent businesses, handcrafted goods, renewable energy, and technology that felt...
That would be so cool to walk through a town or city that looks like that.
like it belonged to the natural world. Those illustrations spread rapidly across Tumblr, Pinterest, and later Instagram, eventually becoming the images most people associate with solarpunk today. The original blog post was primarily concerned with engineering and economics, but then Tumblr gave it an aesthetic language. Neither is inherently more important than the other, but as beautiful images started to spread across the internet, much more than discussions about how to actually build that future, the imagery became more distinct and important than the actual design philosophy that inspired it. So what is the realistic, useful design philosophy of solarpunk instead of the idealistic aesthetic we typically associate with it? And how close is that aesthetic to practical design? Rather than asking how cities can dominate nature, solarpunk asks how they can begin behaving more like natural ecosystems, and that idea actually has a name: biomimicry. In short,
biomimicry.
Biomimicry is the replication of the models, systems, and elements of nature for the purpose of solving complex human problems. Janine Benyus, who popularized the field of biomimicry, summarizes it as learning from nature as a model, mentor, and measure. After nearly 3.8 billion years of evolution, nature has become remarkably efficient at regulating temperature, recycling waste, conserving water, and using energy. So biomimicry asks, what if we used nature as our design mentor?
I mean, that would be the best option because they've had millions and even billions of years of evolution to make perfect, to build ecosystems that are so precise and so perfect. And it only makes sense to use biomimicry in like cities and stuff.
Take cooling, for example. Modern buildings typically fight heat by pumping enormous amounts of electricity into air conditioning systems. But what if that building simply didn't get that hot in the first place? This is where passive design enters the picture. Passive cooling relies on architecture itself to regulate temperature before mechanical air conditioning becomes necessary. Building orientation, cross-ventilation, thick walls that slowly absorb heat, shaded windows, overhanging roofs, internal courtyards, and carefully placed vegetation can dramatically reduce cooling demands. And many of these ideas aren't futuristic at all. They've existed for centuries in traditional architecture.
Oh yeah, those big square, basically like primitive ACs that the Persians made. A few of them are still up. Well, I think because the whole war thing, I think a lot of them were destroyed. But like so cool how the Persians were able to make basically AC units during the ancient
throughout
era.
the Middle East, North Africa, and Southern Europe before cheap fossil fuels made constant air conditioning practical. Now, modern architects are increasingly combining those ancient ideas with contemporary materials and computer modeling. One of my favorite examples I came across was Zimbabwe's Eastgate Center. Inspired by the self-ventilating structure of termite mounds, architect Mick Pierce designed the building to circulate air naturally, significantly reducing the need for conventional air conditioning. This same sort of biomimicry thinking can be applied to any other area of our cities and homes. For instance, transportation is currently one of the most inefficient, unsustainable forms of daily activity that is actively destroying the environment while also unnaturally segregating us from nature due to the sheer lack of walkability. It accounts for roughly 28% of all greenhouse gas emissions.
So 28% transportation, 25% electric power, 23% industry, 13% commercial and residential, and 10% agriculture.
To see a real-world solarpunk solution to this transportation problem, it's probably best to look at a city that you wouldn't initially consider to be like a solarpunk aesthetic, but it definitely applies the design philosophy, and that is Copenhagen.
Copenhagen. Add.
Roughly half of all trips to work or school within the city are made by bicycle because the city was intentionally designed to make biking one of the fastest, safest, and most convenient ways to get around. Protected bike lanes are physically separated from traffic, intersections are designed to prioritize cyclists and pedestrians, and an interconnected network of paths makes it possible to travel across much of the city without ever feeling like you're competing with cars. Also, let's talk about trains. One of the reasons trains appear so frequently in solarpunk artwork is because they're one of the most energy efficient ways we've ever invented to move large numbers of people.
I thought like trains would be the most like the most energy demanding because like all that fuel.
According to the International Energy Agency, rail carries roughly 7% of the world's passenger travel while producing only about 1% of transport-related emissions.
Really? What? I thought it would be a lot more.
An electrified rail powered by low carbon energy becomes even more efficient. One of the greatest and probably the most efficient traveling experience I ever had was on Japan's bullet train, also known as the Shinkansen. Since opening in 1964, the network has transported billions of passengers with zero passenger fatalities from derailments or collisions in commercial
What?
service. The trains routinely
Zero.
operate with average delays measured in seconds, not minutes. Now think about how much that sort of reliability changes daily life. Instead of gripping a steering wheel through rush hour and getting pissed at everyone that's trying to pass you, they can read, answer emails, or simply look out the window. The commute becomes much less stressful, which inevitably bleeds over to other areas of your life in a positive way, though Japan isn't necessarily the greatest place to live for natives from what I hear. Next, let's talk about the way that neighborhood zoning is envisioned.
Oh yes, Singapore. That area's in Singapore. There's their airport actually. I've seen videos of it. It's awesome.
In a solarpunk world. Urban planners generally define a walkable neighborhood as one where people's daily needs, like food, schools, parks, healthcare, cafes, and public transit, exist within a comfortable walking distance. One of the most influential ideas in modern urban planning is the 15-minute city, the idea that most of your daily needs should be reachable within about a 15-minute walk or bike ride from your home. Mixed-use zoning, where homes, shops, offices, and public spaces exist together rather than being separated into isolated districts, naturally reduces car dependence while creating streets that remain active throughout the day. Research consistently associates walkable neighborhoods with lower transportation emissions, better public health, stronger local businesses, and increased social interaction. That means fewer 15-minute drives just to grab a gallon of milk, more opportunities to run into your neighbors, and public spaces that don't just become empty parking lots after 5 p.m. It turns out that designing cities around people instead of cars makes the city feel more alive too. Who would have thought? And in places like Copenhagen, the people themselves seem to be doing pretty well too. Denmark has ranked among the
Denmark is ranked second happiest country in the world. Second place. The United States is 15th and the UK is 19th. Finland is first. Iceland is third. Israel's fourth.
top 3 countries in the World Happiness Report for over a decade, and Copenhagen itself was ranked the world's happiest city.
Copenhagen, happiest city. And then you go to Helsinki in Finland, then Geneva, Finland, Uppsala, then Tokyo, then Trondheim, then Bern, then Malmo.
Be in the 2025 Happy City Index. In other words, our behavior follows the city's design, and when the design is in alignment with solarpunk design philosophy, we tend to be happier and healthier.
That's because like solarpunk is like a pretty like utopian, and like utopias can work. Utopians can work, 100%. Utopians can always work. It's only like your mentality. I think this video is already long enough. It's already 18 minutes long, so I'm gonna cut it here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it was a little bit of a different content. I want to start doing more reaction videos. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. See you in the next video.